Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela, and I'm gonna see if I can make it a little brighter because it's darker than it usually is right now outside. It's been raining the last few days, so it almost feels like fall right now. There's some screaming and music playing a couple neighbors' doors down, so I'm playing some music to kind of offset that noise. But I am back with Memoirs of a Birth Mother um, by me. I will put the links below to Amazon and Barnes& and Noble for you guys if you want to check it out. I've read up to chapter 11, and I've created a playlist on there where you can go through all 11 chapters. And this one is the chapter 12. What I'm going to read is probably the hardest one in there had to write. So if I get a little emotional, I apologize. But it's a little bit of meatier chapter, so let's get into it. Actually, it's not that meaty, but yeah. So, chapter 12. That first Mother's Day was a bitch. Now, however, it holds extra special meaning to me. The year was 1997, and I had turned into a miserable, epic failure in all things. This day didn't always hold a special place in my heart. Yet as the years have gone on, I have come to realize that first Mother's Day saved me from God only knows what. I was living in utter hell. That entire first year, I spent my days in such a continued downward spiral. By the time that day hit, I, to put it in layman's terms, was a drunk. The endless bad decisions I made during the course of that year didn't seem to help matters either. I even thought I'd found the love again, and for a short time maybe I had. But once again, the curse of my bad luck won out when I found out just a few months into my new relationship that he was terminally ill. He had broken up with me shortly before this, giving me no reason as to why. Then I found out from a friend of his that he was dying, and he cared for me too much to let me watch him die. This just added to the shithole that was my life in that first year. After dastardly failing out of the Air Force, and now this, my self-esteem was at an all-time low. So I did the only other thing that would bring me any kind of peace. I drank. I would have done anything to keep from feeling the loss of my daughter. I felt as if I were drowning in a prison of my own making, with no way to escape. My daughter was born May 17th, 1996, within just a few days of Mother's Day. So with the big day fast approaching, my pain was twofold. One, I was going to miss her first birthday, and two, she wouldn't be there. The whole reason I would be able to celebrate my Mother's Day at all. I was a mess. No one can know the utter emptiness you feel that first Mother's Day after you've given up the one thing that makes it Mother's Day for you in the first place. What do you do? Cry over the loss of the child yet again? Do you spend time alone in quiet contemplation? Do you surround yourself with friends to try to take your mind off of how you feel inside, even if it is just for a few moments in the day? I chose to do all of those things at once. I also opted to get drunk repeatedly. I would tell myself, you deserve it. You just gave up your only child. If anyone deserves a drink here or there, it's you. However, here or there became every day, and before I knew it, I was drunk going to work, drunk coming home from work, drunk at work. Anytime I felt sad, really, which was all the time. Alcohol became my crutch. It was a great way to numb the pain. By the time Mother's Day came around, I was well versed in the ways of alcohol. I became something I hated. Self-loathing was dominant in those days. The more I loathed myself, the more I drank, and so a vicious cycle was born. I just wanted to ease the never-ending pain and guilt I felt, if only for a moment. Anything just to feel human again. I am still waiting. Waiting for that carefree girl I once was to return. I became insolent and crass. I didn't care if I lived or died. I didn't care about anything or anyone. I was an island unto myself, an island of nothing but endless nights and untold storms with no way of escaping the hell I was in. No one was able to reach me through the cloud of smoke that lingered in the air. No one understood what I was going through, so therefore when they tried to reach me, I would lash out. My defenses overcame me and were even more impenetrable. I got so bad that my best friend at the time, that drank just as much, if not more than I did, finally confronted me. She asked me what I was doing to myself. She told me that I had a drinking problem and I needed help. Really? I took offense. Of course, as I did about everything in those days, I didn't take it as the friendly gesture it was, with her suggesting I get help. All I could think was, how dare she sit there and judge me when she drank just as much as I did? I was outraged. I was having none of it. I told her to keep her opinions to herself and use my, by now, old standby excuse for why I did anything. I screamed, if you have ever had to give up a child, you would know how I feel. Even now, I cringe at my treatment of her. Did she really drink as much as me? Or was it my brain's way of fooling myself into drinking more? It wasn't pretty, and I, in later months, apologized to my dear friend who had only been trying to help for my behavior. That line, though, became the staple line in my vocabulary for a very long time. I was so angry that no one got why I was this way, a pitiful shell of who I once was. I was drinking so much that I started to notice I seemed to be leaking alcohol from every pore. I reeked of it all the time, even when I hadn't had any in hours, which was rare for me. Then the day arrived, the day that changed my trajectory, the trajectory of my life forever. The day I sank to my lowest of lows. The day that simultaneously broke my heart and became what I like to now call the beginning of my awakening. That day was Mother's Day. Just writing about it now brings up those ancient memories so vividly I can almost smell the scent of stale vodka and lingering smoke. I still shudder at the thought of this person I had turned into. I look back on this tumultuous time in my life and how far down the rabbit hole I really was, and thank God He gave me the strength and the courage to emerge out of this time of pain and grief. It was at this point where I couldn't even recognize the damage I was doing to myself or to those around me. I guess that is the very definition of an addict. I was addicted to the booze, my anger, my self-pity, and I almost let it destroy me. The booze helped me forget. It helped me not to have to deal with all the feelings that continue to surface on a daily basis. I tend to even now do things in excess, and so I did. The day before Mother's Day, I had received my daughter's official first-year photo, and I lost it. I was inconsolable. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and yet I felt as if my heart had been ripped out of my chest all over again. Still not knowing how to deal with all these raw emotions, I, of course, turned to the drink once again. My drink of choice was always vodka, or 151, or a combination of the two. I had the mentality, go big or go home. I always went big. The beginning of the end for me was the very next day, Mother's Day. I was staying with a friend who just happened to be having a house party on the night in question. Still a little drunk from the night before, this was the perfect excuse to just keep on drinking. I was too busy drinking everything I could get my hands on to even socialize. At this point, I had lost my job, so I hadn't even bothered with any mundane tasks such as changing into clean clothes, bathing, or even combing my hair. It never even dawned on me to do so when 30-plus people showed up for this party. There were more than 30 people stepped into this tiny two-bedroom apartment that eventually spilled out into the slightly larger parking lot. I was a mess, and it didn't even register the disgusted looks from everyone at the party. I didn't care. As long as I stayed drunk, it was all good, but I became even more incensed once I came upon my daughter's photo yet again. With my favorite brand of vodka in one hand and her 8x10 photograph in the other, I clumsily stumbled from one person to another, telling them not so gracefully that this was my first Mother's Day and forced them to look at her picture. No, I know. Looking back, I was the most annoying person at this party. I quickly became the scourge of the party. I was now that person, you know that one. The walking, talking advertisement on why you shouldn't drink. No one wants to hear the whining of someone as absurd as I'm sure I looked. Here they were trying to have a good time, drinking their troubles away, and the drunken idiot, that's me, is essentially harassing them. I eventually realized this at some point in the evening that I was in fact, the annoying weirdo of the party, and I was bringing everyone down. And so with that, I took my leave. I headed to my room where I thought, I'm better off anyway. I was wrong. With my bottle and my photo, I wound up bawling my eyes out, clutching her picture to my chest as if she could feel my embrace through the thin paper. I cried for my broken heart. I cried for my loss. I cried for all those little moments I would never have with her. I cried for the sorry state I had put myself in, and I cried for my innocence I would never get back. I cried until there was nothing left, and for the first time since giving my beautiful baby away, I was empty. No feelings, no pain, just emptiness. Through my drunken haze, I somehow began to realize this was it for me. This would be my world for the rest of my life if something didn't change. I started to hyperventilate at this sobering thought. I would spend the rest of my days alone, huddled in a dark corner of the room with her picture in one hand and the finest Smirnoff had to offer in the other. In this moment when the smoke cleared from my foggy brain, I knew I couldn't continue like this, or I would wind up on the streets, or worse, dead. I vowed right then and there in the cold, dark room, reeking of vodka and smoke, and God only knows what else. I vowed to myself, to my daughter, and my sanity, that I would at least try to pick up the broken pieces of my shattered life and overcome the stranger I had become. It did take a few more months to get myself together, but I got cleaned up on my own and started living again. No one can truly know the soul-stealing, gut-wrenching pain of putting your child up for adoption until they are in that situation. It is something I've struggled to find peace with for the whole of my daughter's 20-something years. I thank God every day I was able to climb out of that primordial ooze, to be strong enough to combat my self-made demons and learn to move on, to bravely face this thing that almost broke me and came out on the other side. If not for that first Mother's Day, I shudder to think of where I would be now. It has been many years since that fateful night. I have since borne 2 beautiful boys with the love of my life. I've celebrated many a Mother's Day since that first agonizing one. After years of healing and finally coming to terms with the choices I made that day has now become special to me. It was by far the darkest and most enlightening day of my life. It is burned into my mind forever, and now I smile at the many Mother's Day I have cherished since. That was chapter 12. And if you guys want to check out the whole book, it's on Amazon um, as an ebook and a book. It's on Barnes & Noble as ebook only. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos in the future, please subscribe and don't forget to hit that notification button so you are alerted of when my next chapter is. So I will see you guys later. Bye.